Okay guys, so we got the front clip off of it last night and got her tucked in the garage here. It barely fits. Just barely. Here, I'll show you what it looks like from outside. It's just nosed in there. If I let the air out of the tires, I might have been able to get the roof in if I took the mirrors off, but I think this will work. Took the front clip off so I can get to the motor. Got it sitting back here behind. So we'll get started on it now. This is my other project, but it's on the back burner. I daily it now, but we might build some stuff on that eventually down the road. Light setup on this thing, and so I'm gonna start tearing her down. I think I'm gonna build my new headers onto the old motor just so I don't scratch the new motor up. Not that there's much to scratch up, but I made these when I was like 16, cut up a pair of two-wheel drive headers and they worked, but they look like I made them when I was 16. So, and then this side has a full two-wheel drive header. I just had to clearance the frame a little bit right down there. So, but something I definitely still recommend. These infrared heaters are awesome for this cold weather. You can just stick it on your project and it's starting to warm up even the metal, so you're not like handling cold metal and stuff. They're awesome. So let's get started. And we got our Speedway header kit, but I thought that the collectors on these things were 3" down here, and I bought my reducers to go down to 2.5, and I either misread or mismeasured or something, and they are 3.5. So my reducer is way too small. So I'm going to decide if I'm going to buy another reducer or flare it some more. So. Okay guys, so I got this passenger side header all tacked up. Got it where I wanted. So I got a couple tacks on each one of those. Got my primaries welded in the center where the splices are. Got it pointing right down back in there I want, with enough room on the underside, clearance for the frame for the engine wrapping and stuff like that. Okay, so I got the one header all tacked up and positioned where I want it. And before I tack the collector on in the final spot that I want, I cut this little guy out. I'm gonna weld this in here and weld all the inside stuff so I don't get any leaks. Believe it or not, I cut that out with the bandsaw, but it looks like I chewed it out with my teeth. Okay, so I got the collector tacked on where I want it, and now I got this spare head that I poked that hole in, and I'm going to use it as a welding jig. Keep everything straight and cool, it's nice and cold, and do as much welding as I possibly can with it bolted to this thing. Let it cool off completely. Right alongside of the bolts. I'll probably have to wait and do that afterwards, but if I do everything but that and wait till it's completely cooled off, shouldn't warp too much. So let's get started. Okay, she's all the way welded up, except with the exception of just the little sides right by the bolts. I couldn't get the torch in there, but I'm going to let it cool down all the way tonight, and then I'll do those one at a time, taking each bolt out one at a time, so we get the least chance of warping that flange. Nice little shorty header. I'm really impressed with this Speedway header kit. It's been great material. I love that big thick 3/8 flange, and yeah, it's been great. Other side done. It's sitting up here bolted on the block on the stand. This is what I got left out of the kit. That's the Speedway kit to do the driver's side. So it's going to have to look something similar to this. This is the one that I made when I was 16. Comes off head and it has to dive straight down here in between, just like that, in between that front driveline U-joint and the low side of the oil pan. And hopefully I got enough room. I just was looking at this one, and I don't know if you can see it in the camera, but you can see where, like, under full compression, it looks like my front U-joint was slapping that a little bit, or the yoke at least. So, the other thing I had to do on the last one, which I'm going to have to do on this one, our flange here, our collector. So, one note, I think I noted in the last video, that, these collectors are 3.5 inch, not 3 inch. I don't know where I got that idea from, but that bit me in the butt too, because I have 2.5 inch exhausts and mufflers, and I bought a 3 to 2.5 inch reducer. So what I ended up doing was I took this reducer and I cut it off just above the flare, about 1/4 inch past the flare, and I sliced it in 4 places, and then had to flare it even more to meet the end of this collector. You can see over here I had to flare it even more to meet that collector, and I cut the collector way down because I didn't need it to be that long. So I'm gonna have to do the same thing on this guy, so let's get going. So we got the headers all done now. I just got these side by side for comparison. These were my old headers that I built when I was 16. Well, I kind of built them. I cut apart a set of 2-wheel drive ones. So this one used to mirror this one, and I cut this one apart to go over the motor mount on the driver's side, and then tuck down in between the pan and the front drive line there, because it had to route. And this one I had to notch out my frame rail to fit it in even, which don't necessarily recommend. So I switched them up a little bit. This one's pretty much the same. Only difference is it's a little cleaner work, and 2-inch primaries instead of, I think those are 1 3/4. I went with the V-band clips instead of this reducer mount like I had before, because you have to use like a U-bolt or something like that. And these just look to be a lot more reliable and easier to use. So this one I changed up a little bit, and it runs on top of the frame rail and then dives down in between the frame rail and the transmission, just behind like the transmission bell housing. The only reason I'm able to do that is because I'm running a 3-inch body lift. If I didn't have a body lift, there might be enough room there, but probably not. So yeah, there's the comparison for the new headers. Next thing I have to do to them, I got them all welded up. On the driver's side one, I had to weld just a little bit on the inside because I couldn't quite reach the torch with all those tight bends. But the next thing I have to do is get in here, and you can see how the tubes don't quite meet up to the exhaust flange. So I've got a nice good welds on the outside, so I'm going to come in here with the die grinder and basically port these out, so that not enough to take away my welds on the outside, but enough that I'm not restricting flow. I'm going to grind those little rings out and polish that all back down so that's nice and clean. So these are the Speedway 460 header kit. I was really pleased with them. There'll be a link in the description for these guys. They went together really good. Had a good assortment of bends, nice thick quality flange, which I appreciate. I've done other headers, or even like these stock ones here. You can see they're only like maybe a little more than a 1/4 inch flange, but this is a nice 3-inch thick flange, 3/8 inch thick flange. Sorry about that. And then also, I think another thing that helped was my combination of, I actually welded it on this spare head here, And I think that worked great in conjunction that it was bolted down to something flat, and then also you have this mass chunk of cast steel. It's cold sitting in the garage, and it works as a heat sink. So as you're welding, it keeps things a lot cooler, and so you have less warpage in that case. So I'm gonna get to grinding these, and we'll get them fit up. We're about ready to stick this motor in. I got a couple more things to tidy up. I gotta do the main seal on the transmission, might as well while I have it out. And yeah, we're getting there. So after that, gotta get it in, get it broken. I'm trying to decide if I'm going to do that here at home or I'm going to tow it up to a friend's house, because I don't know if I want to free rev it here and for a half an hour straight and annoy the neighbors. So we'll see about that. Yeah, stay tuned. Thanks for watching again. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like. If you'd like to follow the rest of the build, smash that subscribe button. Have a nice day, and go build something.